Alrighty, got a match for the 2024 Dominion Online Championships. This one between MyBoiii and MyCaastl. Uh, Pure coincidence, these two have managed to face each other in the round of 128, I believe. Um, yes, the round of 128. So they both won their first match, and now one of them will be advancing to round 3. Oh no, my boy! Oh my boy! Yeah, yeah. So many hand hiders. Um, we will not know what MyBoii's hand looks like for the duration of this match. Um, I feel like half of these folks just like flip it off at one point and then don't even realize they have that setting off. Um, Alas. Well, now it is obligatory to root for MyCaastl, the more congenial of the two players. Um, oh my boy. Anyways, what's going on in this kingdom? Uh, so villages, we got Rusty Village, and that's it. Thinning, there's Dismantle and Maroon. One of those is a lot better than the other one. Plus Buy, Courtier, Wine Merchant, um, Draw. Root Cellar is Draw, but it's very expensive. Other than that, Maroon can. Maroon is only really net draw if you're trashing cards with 2 or more types. I wonder if you can make a Maroon Rusty Village engine. Uh, So surely the opening has to be maroon silver. I can't see anything else that looks reasonable. Yeah, players agree. Are there any 3-type cards in this kingdom? No. Decent number of 2-type cards. Most notably, Ruins are a 2-type card that costs 0, which makes it more viable than usual, I think, to potentially try to draw with Maroon. Wonderful to see that here. These players seem to really like Jester. Uh, I don't know that I'm a believer. Jester is a fairly weak card. Admittedly, this is a fairly weak kingdom. So who knows? Maybe. Uh, if it gained you something nice, Jester seems alright. Like if you hit one of their villages, um, 2 coins gain a village is not so bad. I don't think the junking hurts so much. Like you take an extra Jester, I take an extra Maroon, and I trash the junk. I feel like I came out ahead in that exchange. Um, we did see Harsh Winter activate early. So the Omen card in this kingdom is Rusty Village. The only village in the kingdom it's going to be played 5 times pretty early on. And so for the rest of the game, gaining cards is going to come with debt. I think that in practice, Harsh Winter tends to disincentivize building a big engine just because you gain a lot more total cards over the course of that deck, and probably pushes things at least somewhat towards a more simple build. Not overwhelming or anything. Uh, but the effect is like for example, a death cart gaining you 2 ruins just necessarily comes with at least 2 death, potentially 4. Looks like both players have 2 maroons, which I think makes sense. Thinning looks important here. Plus, there's junkers in both decks, and not to mention, maroon can be draw later in the game. I still don't have my mind fully made up on Root Cellar. It's just a 3-cost card. It's a double lab. Seems really strong. But your deck has to have enough money density in it um, to pay off 3. Like if you're drawing, the Root Cellar net draws you 2 cards. And if the average value of those cards is less than 1.5, then you're not even breaking even. So it becomes a really good draw when your deck does a bunch of really expensive stuff. Uh, I don't know if we're at that point or not. I'm gonna say I think Root Cellar is pretty good here. I don't think I would take any until I had some gains in the deck, like some courtiers, or like if you want to go with gestures, gestures as well. But you add some courtiers first, then you start clicking Root Cellar, and then maybe Dismantle as well. Like Dismantle can gain stuff while you're in debt. Trash or gold, gain a Root Cellar or something. But the idea being, there's probably going to be some period where you're in debt pretty frequently, where you're playing your Root Cellars a bunch and not paying them off because your deck still has a bunch of copper in it. But if you can do productive stuff that builds your deck while in debt, like I'm gaining golds off of Courtier, turning golds into additional draw and stuff with Dismantle, then it's okay to be in debt for a while. Whereas you wouldn't want to start going to debt before your deck could do things while it's in debt. And then eventually you've thinned enough cards with Maroon, gained enough stuff with Courtier and Dismantle that you're paying off that debt. That's my suspicion anyway. Root Cellar is fairly new, so it's hard to say for sure. But I think once you've got some number of gains, Root Cellar starts to look good here. I think. I, so normally you just get the first letter of each player in the log, but these players obviously have names that mirror each other quite closely. Even if they're different in capitalization, you just get like capital J, lowercase j. Here we have MyBoiii versus MyC. Oh, how does Harsh Winter interact with Jester? It doesn't trigger, right? Yeah, Harsh Winter is only when you gain a card on your turn. I was imagining scenarios where you give your opponent a copper and it comes with debt, but I don't think that can happen. If you for some reason took a copper off of Jester, you could take debt. That would be really brutal. If the on your turn constraint weren't there, just imagine any game of the Witch where you're giving your opponent curses and half of those curses come with 2 debt each. That would be quite a nightmare. 6 coppers have been given out. Yeah, Harsh Winter can be pretty painful. I think the worst interaction I've seen so far that comes to mind is with horses. Harsh Winter is brutal with horses. Because like every second horse, like it's not only supply piles, it is any pile. So every second horse you gain comes with 2 debt. Imagine playing livery and then taking 60 debt. Could they have? No. I was wondering if they could have pitched the 2 coppers before playing the Snake Witch to try to activate it, but I think they didn't have the Rusty Village in hand at that point in time. Shouldn't that gesture be visible in hand? Even with the hand hiding feature, the gesture was revealed. Hmm. Make 10 money, pay off 9 debt. What do we accomplish that turn though? They gained a gold, which came with 2 debt, and they gained a courtier, and they gained a snake witch. I do think there's a lot of Harsh Winter games where the strategy is buy the things with no debt, and it's not even just because, um, like oh I really don't want the debt. I think half the effect is just if I buy the thing with no debt, sorry, if I buy the thing with debt, then it has no debt for my opponent, and they get to buy it for cheap and put the debt back on the pile. And if it's like some key card, like the stack of villages, we get locked in this vicious cycle where I'm paying $6 for every village, you're paying $4 for every village, and so sometimes you just kind of don't want to touch a pile until you can buy 2 at a time, and then you're like, I'm willing to take the debt as long as I can buy a second one, put the debt back on there before you can get it. Apparently, Harsh Winter is the most banned Rising Sun thing so far. Fascinating. Hmm. The correct answer should be Approaching Army. That is the most easily bannable. Ninja makes a lot. So The reason why I didn't pick Ninja, despite Ninja being just objectively the worst card in Rising Sun bar none, is because Ninja is a card. And when you're considering the ban list, there's a separate ban list for the cards and for the landscapes. And most of the most evil things in Dominion are cards. Um, so like Ninja, despite being the worst thing, has to compete against Swindler, Possession, Torture, all the nasty stuff. Whereas landscapes are in general pleasant, unassuming, utterly benign, and so it's much easier to justify banning some new landscape, I think. Um, Among the new landscapes, though, Harsh Winter? I mean, it's harsh. I think Bureaucracy is harsher than Harsh Winter, the one that just gives you a copper every time you gain something. Um, Maybe something psychological about the debt people don't like. Clearly, the worst new landscape is Approaching Army. Not because Approaching Army is bad, but because it makes you play with extra attack cards, which is bad. Torture, that is such a fun card. Um, that sure is a take. See, if DZ agrees with you, you should think about revising your opinion. All right, it's been Black Market must be a terrible card. Wasn't aware up until this point, but unfortunately, friendship with Black Market has ended. My boy thinking hard about this. So they take the gold, they get two debt, which I presume they don't want, which is why they're thinking about it. But if they give it to their opponent doesn't get the debt. Um, I take the gold anyway. Just loading up on golds does not look like a half bad strategy here. Again, mostly because Root Cellar exists, which is tons and tons of draw if you can pay for it. And having a deck full of golds makes it easy to pay for all that draw. All right, we are overdrawing here. Look at these root tillers go. There's 12 debt to pay off. So this draw came at a cost. Let's see, how much money do we have so far in hand? 9, 11, 13, 15 with the Jester, 21 if you take coins off of both courtiers. Um, I think you play the Jester first here, just so. No, disagree. I was contemplating whether you're gonna have a lot of debt, and so the question is, do you even need a second buy off of the courtier? Like there might be scenarios where I think like coins buy, coins gold, gold buy all have their merits, and I kind of want to know like what's my jester gonna gain before I make a committal decision on that last courtier. Is this the deck you want this many root sellers in? Um, as a, I'm not sure I fully follow that question just based on the wording. Like is this a better kingdom than average for root seller? I would think so. Like we have very limited draw otherwise. Your other draw is terminally playing Maroon, trashing Ruins, which seems not terrible, but is finicky. And there's with Courtier, you can easily just put a bunch of payload in your deck and pay off the Root Sellers. So it seems like one of Root Seller's better kingdoms. Do you go out of your way to activate the Snake Witch? It is difficult here. Probably not worth it. Do you want this many Root Sellers? Yeah, I think so. One Root Seller plus two golds. The first gold pays off the Root Seller, and then you get the second gold for free, essentially. Or free of the normal -1 card cost that cards come with. Yeah, just in general, I think Root Cellar and Courtier is a decent synergy. Because the Courtier can put as many golds as you want in your deck, but oftentimes you're just like, I can't really support more golds, I can't draw all this, and you have to stop getting golds off a Courtier. Whereas Root Cellar's problem is it can draw you hella cards for very cheap, but then you have to have tons of payload to pay it off. So I think the gist of where these decks are going makes sense to me. Unfortunately, MyBoiii appears to have a dud hand here. Hmm. I was a little surprised for a moment that they didn't want the free silver, but it does come with 2 depth, so I guess it makes it non-obvious. Uh, okay, so the piles are now very low. I would expect a province buy here. Probably your opponent can't pile next turn because there really aren't that many gains. Um, but Snake Witch is low, Root Cellar super low. The Ruins pile is fairly low. Like obviously you need 10 buys to empty them normally, but you can get them 2 at a time with Death Cart. I do think Harsh Winter makes it a bit harder than usual to pile out. Because like if you just want to spam click a pile, you're taking a bunch of debt on every second buy. So the province wasn't absolutely necessary, but I think there's a reasonable point in time to start greening. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. No more draw. Well, there's draw. Maybe the better way to phrase that is no more villages, or no more non-terminal draw. Um, hmm. The second province I thought was less obvious than the first, but I think it was reasonable. Um, Having taken the first province, I might have just bought a root cellar there. Sad gestures. Oh, that's a very greedy buy from MyBoiii. So they've emptied the second pile with a 2 province deficit. I don't know that MyCaastl's gonna be able to pile anything here, but I would sure think about something like province plus lower one of these piles a bunch. Maybe even curses actually. Okay, we have actually very few gains. I don't think I realized how few gains we had exactly. Um, is coins better than golds there? Hmm. So if you gain 2 golds, you get 6 coins. You have 2 debt to pay off. So effectively, you've made 2 less money than if you take the coins. But I'm also looking at the hand, and it has 2 root cellars in it that didn't get played this turn. So you have the draw. Um, Also, going back to something that came up earlier in this game, they keep playing their courtiers before their jesters, which just seems like clearly the wrong order. Um, like as a general principle of what order you should play your cards in, play the cards that give you information first, then play the cards that require information second. So Jester, you see, oh, this is the card that was on top of their deck, and you know, am I gaining that or are they gaining that? And then Courtier, you got to decide, do I want to gain gold, do I want to take plus buy, etc. And what you end up gaining off of the Jester could inform that. Like, oops, I took more debt than expected, I don't need a second buy after all. Or like here, they flipped to gold, and if you're going to gain a first gold anyway and take that debt, you might actually want to gain a second gold off of Courtier, put that back on the pile. And it's within by province and wine merchant. Interesting. Um, so the wine merchant is plus buy. The first wine merchant is not super exciting because it's basically just like 2 coins and a buy. But yeah, actually, is the first wine merchant even any better than Courtier? Like Courtier might just be doing what wine merchant is doing, but more effectively. It's 3 coins and a buy. You even have 2 types that you almost always hit. I don't know that I love the wine. I guess The Wine Merchant didn't have debt on it. It's probably the reason they clicked Wine Merchant in that 4 tier. Maybe that's a sufficient reason. In any case, the Wine Merchant buy makes me think that MyCaastl strategy here is not to pile. They're just going to try to win the race on provinces, which is not necessarily a bad idea. So if there's no more junk in this deck, I think I would be... Oh, nope, we didn't do it. I was going to say trash the Snake Witch with Maroon. So you're getting a bunch of draw, and the benefit of getting a bunch of draw is you can play fewer Root Cellars and take less debt. Why not return? Oh, the first Snake Witch? Was it an activation? Let's go look. So their starting hand, Gold Province Courtier, Root Cellar Rustic Village. They drew another Rustic Village, Snake Witch. They drew a second Root Cellar. So Root Cellar is different. Sorry, not Root Cellar. Snake Witch is different than Menagerie. With Menagerie, the card notably not from the Menagerie expansion, uh, it checks your hand first and then either draws 1 card or 3 cards. So you can know for sure that if you have a hand with no unique cards in it, your Menagerie is going to draw 3. With Snake Witch, it draws 1 card first and then checks. So even if your hand had no duplicate cards, you could accidentally draw into a duplicate card and then it fails to trigger, which happened here. So they found a pilot after all on curses while I was busy talking about the Snake Witch. Game 1 to MyCaastl. Look what they did to my boy. Okay. Kingdom number 2. This looks pretty strong. So we've got Rice, which likes having lots of types of cards. Here we've got night cards, duration cards, attack cards, shadow cards, night, duration, attack, shadow, action, treasure. I think you're getting up to 6 unique types potentially. Your Rice can make 6 money. There is a 7th type of card in this kingdom. Alas, it is stuck in the trash and cannot be accessed here. There's no way to get a zombie in play. You need Lurker or something. I'm gonna switch player view. I can't be in the point of view of a hand hider. What are we doing here? Amassed Tanuki makes a lot of sense to me. Second Tanuki makes a lot less sense to me. Um, there's nothing good here worth 2. Um, Someday 7. Oh, Donald X is foreshadowing, I think, Necromancer eventually getting the command type. Necromancer is a de facto command card. I think, if I recall correctly, back when the cards that play other cards changed to get an extra type, the reason was to stop like broken loops into stuff like cost reduced Band of Misfits can play Captain, can play Band of Misfits, etc. Or cost reduced Captain rather. Um, Anyways, um, Necromancer didn't have any broken loops, I don't think, and so they didn't bother changing at the time. Um, but probably one day, for consistency's sake, it gets the command type. Are there people who think Rice is weak? I think generally the Western Hemisphere, my impression. Anyways, how'd they open? Oh, MyCaastl still deliberating. Yeah, I don't think second Tanuki is the move. Lost City seems fine to me. Um, I think Lost City is a reasonable choice. Not exactly sure what the second buy is. Could be Necromancer, could be Crypt, could be Lost City. I think those are probably the things I would think about. But I think the second Tanuki just seems gross to me because like you really want 1 to deal with your estates. Turning estates into 4 costs looks lovely, but Tanuki trashing coppers is just like that's worse than nothing. Like copper into a state is giving you a worse card. I'd rather deal with the coppers with Crypt, which is a much stronger copper trasher. Um, I guess with two Tanukis, you could get rid of your estates really fast and then turn one into a hireling or a rice or something. I don't hate the second Tanuki, I suppose. Um, you want to get rid of it again fairly quickly, I think, once you're done with the estates. Lost City was taking advantage of the double Tanuki open. The draw didn't matter. Let's think about that. So your opponent has 12 cards in their deck. The bottom two are both Tanukis. Um, yeah, that makes sense to me. So if you get on Lost City, then their turn three hand has 6 cards. They can play one Tanuki turn three, and then their turn four hand they're gonna draw the Tanuki when it otherwise would have been playable from the deck. So yeah, the +1 card had no effect. That's a cheeky benefit. Um, does that mean it literally doesn't matter? I guess it doesn't matter like 0-0 because it means you're more likely to hit like spike 5 on turn 3 maybe. Um, like your turn 3 hand gets to be 6 cards, as opposed to being like it's basically like a 6 card hand and a 4 card hand almost, as opposed to 5 and 5. So maybe you hit I don't know. It effectively doesn't matter, which I think makes Lost City look kind of nice there. Um, turn 2 $5 seems like crypt there for me. Um, yeah, I think crypt would be a reasonable 5. No, notably, crypt is when you can't open on any split. Like you could take a double 5 action card on any split with a mass, but it's specifically action cards. So you actually specifically had to have the 2-5, which MyCaastl did to be able to do like Tanuki Crypt. Um, but they did have that, and so they could have considered it. Uh, the thing that would scare me about taking crypt early here would be getting hit with militia on the crypt turn. But with a mass, your opponent is much less likely to have opened militia than usual. Yeah, Enchantress plus shadow cards is kind of funny. If you're under Enchantress attack, you can just play your shadow card from the deck, and then it effectively means the shadow card becomes a lab rather than becoming a cantrip. Just kind of cute. Okay, so for sure, this is a good turn to buy crypt. You're that's not a crypt. You just finished all your estates. You got helicopters. You got duration draw coming in, so you're gonna line it all up. You're probably not the best kingdom for Enchantress. Enchantress is not a bad card. Their Tanuki is a lab. Is that like Tanuki's a good card? If you played your Tanuki as a lab instead of as a Tanuki, that's still not necessarily like a huge buff or anything. Um, I'll say it this way: I would not be buying Enchantress for the attack in this kingdom. The attack is not much of an attack, but you might just want cheap duration draw, and so I don't think the Enchantresses are terrible just for that reason. I don't know why you would hate to say that. I mean, Crypt in general is a good card, and here it is the only reasonable Copper Trasher, so it looks very good. It's also the only Night card, so it's buffing your Rice. Um, this is an exceptionally good Crypt Kingdom. I guess the one thing that makes Crypt look bad in this kingdom is Militia. Militia hurts Crypt a lot, but there's a lot of upsides, and I think they're more than enough to counterbalance the Militia problem. How did the Militia get into the trash? When did that happen? They trashed the Militia with Zombie Apprentice. I wonder what their hand looked like that looked like the best play. Maybe there was a strong reason the Militia had to die there. Didn't have a village, really wanted to play the Tanuki, perhaps. Ooh, gross. Just having an exposed shadow card in your hand, disgusting. Maybe that's why MyBoiii is hiding their hand, so we don't know when their Tanuki is just nakedly visible in their starting hand. For shame. Play your shadow cards. Oh joy. We've pilgrimaged. What are we gaining? Lost City, Necromancer, and Third Enchantress. So my castle really needs gains now, seems like. There's Tanuki, so we could mid-turn gain a Rice maybe, or an Astrolabe. Astrolabe's a little bit sadder here than it used to would have been, because Crypt got nerfed a little while back. It was a bit too strong, and so they added this non-duration clause to it. It used to be able to set aside any treasure, but Crypt here actually would not be able to set aside an Astrolabe. I don't know if clause is the right word. I think the only things that were added were non-duration. They added this singular additional term. There are people who believe me, one of which is me. Isn't it that it was never stronger? I mean, it was definitely stronger when you could set aside duration cards. Um, that was actually kind of a nice interaction. that is, I do appreciate these have been some some cleverly malicious Lost City gains. The opening Lost City also spited the double Tanuki open. Now we have Lost City just drawing a Tanuki into their hand, and then discarding it again. I guess making the point moot. Were there many treasure durations before Plunder or Seaside 2E? I'm pretty sure Astrolabe was the very first treasure duration. Like there used to just not be duration treasures, and it was not a. Oh, was it contract? Maybe I'm getting my timetables wrong. Was it contract was the very first one? Well, I'm gonna trust DZ. Yeah, that was Allies, which came out before the two E's. Yeah, yeah. So that for a long, long time there were no treasure durations. There was going to be a split pile full of treasure durations, as I recall, in Allies that didn't pan out. I think contract. I guess that was the only treasure duration that ended up existing. How many treasure durations does Plunder have? There's Cage and Rope, Amphora, Jewels, Figurehead, um, Endless Chalice, uh, Abundance, 7 so far. Gondola, 8. Maybe it's 8 total. Probably missing another one. Oh, Buried Treasure, 9. Grotto was once going to be a treasure. So 9.5. I don't remember ever setting aside a duration card with Crypt. Well, maybe because you didn't get Crypt enough, which is your own dang fault. Okay, so surely we gain and play a Crypt here, right? Look at all these treasures. Also, look at this treasure that benefits from having more types in play. Please? Pretty please? Trash that Lost City. Actually, not even the Lost City. You could kill the Enchantress if you wanted to. I don't remember. I'm not even sure how it would work. So, Crypt um, says like any number of non-duration treasures you have in play. So you could just like yank a duration treasure out of play and set it aside, which would be lovely with something like contract. You could like set aside an action card, then pull your contract into the crypt and play it again the next turn. It would let you do some nice synergies with a number of the duration cards, but it would be a tracking nightmare because there would be phantom duration effects. That would be interesting. Like you could play your endless chalice every turn and just bank up a bunch of +1 coin effects. Well, hiya there, Porky. Are you the original Porky? Your name would suggest otherwise. I'm not even sure they're listening. They might just be in the game chat. Let's go look. Yeah, they're none the wiser. Alright, lost cities are empty. Crypt still at 10, and justice has been done this day. I would love to know why they're trashing a card now with 3 cards left in their deck. Are they out of draw cards? If only there was any way to know. I should be the first Porky, but someone took my spot. You could have just named yourself Porky1, and we would have been none the wiser. A 5th Tanuki. Is there such a thing as too many Tanukis? Which sub bracket are they in? Are they in the Tanuki bracket? If they are, I'll give them a pass. No, this is the Ronin bracket, so they're not even repping their own division card. Y'all have 6 Rices. Wouldn't it be lovely to have a night type card in play, one that just stays in play for a very long period of time and is just always there generating you free money, cleaning up all these coppers? Then you have so much overdraw, you can make use of this legion of Tanukis that you've got. Man, that card would be broken, wouldn't it? You play your Tanuki and trash something just to get it in play, because having a shadow type card in play means you make 3 more money off these rice. I don't know. Oh, that can't be right. I'm suspicious of that one. All right, we're full on the green phase. I think we're gonna miss out on the crypt play at this point. Yeah, I think milling province would be pretty reasonable. I mean, copper into a state would be fine at this point because we're not trashing our coppers the way God intended. Is it easy to miss crypt? I have a really hard time doing that. Oh, maybe I forgot about the enchant. Maybe the reason they have so many Tanukis is because one Tanuki every turn becomes a lab to counter the enchantresses. I forgot about that interaction. That sounds like a character flaw that you should work on. Of course, Crypt is good here, Porky. You'd know that if you were listening. Sorry, Porky 2. The hotkey for turning off caps lock is Alt F4. Looks like it's next to all the strong cards to me. Militia, Necromancer, Amass. Those are some power cards if ever there were any. Right, given MyBoii's hand at the moment, I'm going to say probably the correct play is to buy a crypt. Oh, Porky, Porky, Porky. You're an old soul. Once upon a time, there was a version of crypt that would have given you full control over the astrolabes. Would have been nigh on unstoppable. Alas, crypt has been dragged down to earth with the rest of the mortal cards and now has a non-duration condition that means it cannot set aside the astrolabes. Yeah, I don't think they ever coexisted. Um, when did crypts change exactly? Was that when plunder dropped? Maybe, or did maybe it changed as soon as allies? Someone is gonna. I'm just gonna say crypt changed during allies, and that will be corrected. Surely, if I was wrong. closer to Hinterland's 2E. So you could set aside the contract for a bit. All right, MyBoiii taking a bunch of provinces. I'm not sure there was a good play there. MyBoiii just seemed behind. Um, Taking all the provinces is basically praying that MyCaastl has a dud, which you did militia them, but they also had 2 enchantresses coming in, so you have to know that a dud is fairly unlikely. That being said, I'm not going to say this was like worse than any other line. Yes, Pro-Am, that we established at the start that we were rooting for the person who's playing in upright and honorable fashion. Their hands visible for all to see. MyBoii's probably pulling some shuffle cheatery over there. What have we here? I see Continue and Hermit, which I'm led to believe is a strong interaction. Um, so we got Hireling is draw, Scrying Pool is draw, Mountain Shrine is terminal draw, which probably won't be a thing here because I don't see a village aside from Madman. There's also a dearth of plus buy. Change gaining Marchland could get you plus buy, but that's not a thing you can really reliably do with any consistency. Um, yeah, I think this kingdom seems fairly weak on the whole, but there is one strong synergy. I guess actually Continue is a village, right? Like even if you gain a terminal action card, like you just if the village effect was important enough, you could just spend 8 money just to get the +1 action, and then you played something or other. Um, oh, I don't think maybe I have seen this and I've just overlooked it, but yeah, change in a potion cost card is a nice little interaction. Um, So change says if you have any debt, +3 coins. Otherwise, trash a card from your hand and gain a card costing more coins than it. Plus debt equal to the difference in coins. So you could trash a copper and gain a scrying pool off of change, and you would take 2 debt because scrying pool costs more coins than um, than copper does. You couldn't turn an estate into a scrying pool. Scrying pool technically costs more than a estate because it costs potion more. It doesn't cost more coins, but you could turn copper straight into scrying pool for 2 debt. And change does not care about the potion cost. So it's a nice little circumvention. And then the other interaction worth noting is continue plus hermit is pretty nice. So you buy continue, you gain a hermit, you return to your action phase, and then you play it. Then you go back to your second buy phase because you're done resolving your hermit. And then presumably you're in debt up to your eyeballs and you buy nothing. And because you bought nothing in your second buy phase, even though you just had a buy phase where you bought a thing, Hermit's condition of at the end of your buy phase, if you didn't get anything in it, still triggers on that new buy phase that you created. And so you can buy a Hermit for 8 instead of 3, but you have to play it immediately and immediately turn it into a Madman, which is pretty nice. Hermit March had to die so Hermit Continue could live. How hard are we trying to get debt control here? I kind of feel like just continue Hermit to get Madmen, and then you play a Madman, you have a big turn, maybe you buy Alliance, and once you get some green cards, you could consider Marchland, and then maybe something that is, for the most part, fairly money-ish. A Hireling or 2 would be good in that deck. It would make your Madmen draw more. I'm not sure. I remember the kingdom that we're talking about. And when I played, I bought Continue Hermit turn 2, which seemed really good to me. The bot did the Continue Hermit thing turn 1, which just seems worse. Change on turn 1, 4 seems better than this. Let's go look. Um, is MyCaastl hard bot in disguise? Yeah, a slight difference here. In this kingdom, at least, MyCaastl is trashing an overgrown estate, which triggers a shuffle. So their line, they're putting a Madman and a Hermit straight into their shuffle, which was not true in the Daily King we were just discussing a second ago. So there's at least some case for continue Hermit turn 1 if you specifically have an overgrown estate in hand, which both of them did. So yeah, I think these are at least defensible choices because of the overgrown estate trash. Um, if you're not triggering a shuffle, there's just very little reason to do the continue thing turn one instead of turn two. Do you carry the Necro around here? That's a good question. Probably depends on what deck you're trying to build. Um, I don't. Scrying Pool is Scrying Pool, and it has the change synergy. So I wouldn't be surprised to learn that the best deck is just a bunch of Scrying Pools, and then you play like 2 terminals a turn. Scrying Pool is also money. What activates Approaching Army? Mountain Shrine. Are you playing Mountain Shrine 5 times? Maybe. Um, I guess if I were planning to get a stack of Scrying Pools, I would probably commit to trying to play Mountain Shrine 5 times. Is Mountain Shrine a better trasher than Armory? I'm gonna say no. I think the reason you would get Mountain Shrine is because you're planning to get Scrying Pools, and you want to activate Approaching Army in this kingdom. I think. Otherwise, yeah, Armory gain cemeteries, change the cemeteries into something seems like a much better way to thin. Armory seems kind of important as a gainer regardless. Well, there's not much I want to gain off the armories aside from the cemeteries. It is so you could not put your treasures in play, buy armory, or sorry, continue for armory, and then do that to get an early cemetery trash, which is something neat. Like you couldn't continue for cemetery directly, but you can continue for armory gaining cemetery, which is something nice to do here. I'm still not sure where this deck's supposed to go. I think a stack of Scrying Pools looks good, partly because of the change interaction, and partly because Scrying Pool is just a good card. I also think the rest of the kingdom's kind of weak, and I wouldn't be surprised at like a hireling or two, some continue hermits, and then just alliances for the most part. Maybe taking some marchlands later. Um, okay, we've changed the copper into a potion. My boy, my boy. It is an unintuitive interaction that they might not naturally pick up on if you didn't know the intricacies of change, and it is a new card. Um, but one does not need to take a potion to get scrying pools in this kingdom because one can simply change the coppers directly into the scrying pool. Words are hard. Scrying pool, and one moment, we've returned. What have I missed? I think it's reasonable for a new player. The change wording on coin doesn't perfectly imply the potion thing. Yeah, I agree. It is an interaction that you could easily like. I think the way you would catch it is you play your change, you trash a copper, and you look and you're like, why is the scrying pool pile lit up? Why am I able to gain that? And then you click it. Um, but if you just like click copper thinking like I'm gonna turn this into a potion, you probably don't take a second and look at like what are all the possible things I can gain and then notice the scrying pool. Oh, my C has done it. Will my B pick up on that? In a ladder game, there's like a 0% chance that I would notice my opponent's specific gain off of change closely enough to inform my own strategy. Maybe in the championship they'll be a little bit more observant. Cemetery trashing 4 copper seems nice. Very thin. MyCaastl could do the same here, potentially. Silver into cemetery, killing 4 coppers. Is that too much thinning? Seems so. Yeah, copper into scrying pool is probably just better, I think. Oh, is there a bug afoot? What happened here? When do we continue for change? Oh, we continued, gained a vassal, played a vassal, and then played a change, and then took turn 5. Let me go back. Here we go. Gains a change, plays a change. Let me read continue. Once per turn, gain a non-attack action card, costing up to 4. Return to your action phase and play it. +1 action, +1. So you take the debt before doing any of the effect. Oh, but they. Huh. How does that work? So if I buy continue, I can pay off the debt before resolving the effect. And I guess that's what they did. All is right with the world. Five money, 4 money, essentially. Um, MyBoiii is actually rather thin at the moment. Like it naturally, if I see 4 money in a potion and a scrying pool kingdom, I presume to click the scrying pool. But they're thin enough that I'm not sure a second scrying pool is doing a whole lot for them. So how do you scale up here? Um, Not clear. Did we? So MyBoiii does have an Acropolis somewhere in that hand. Um, they just buy a scrying pool. Interesting. So MyBoiii needs gains. Maybe this turn could they play an Acropolis, play change, gain an armory off of the change, draw the armory and play it? That's what I would hope. Given that both players are going for Scrying Pool, there's not really a compelling interest in taking Mountain Shrine, I don't think. Because you're activating Approaching Army for the both of you. I think Mountain Shrine only looks good if you're the only one with Scrying Pool around. Oh, the old one potion. Tragic. Truly tragic. So MyBoiii can gain and play an armor here, I believe, right? There's no way of knowing for certain what's in their hand, but I'm led to believe that their hand has a change, an Acropolis, and a second scrying pool. Oh, but they're in debt. Oh no, they can't do it. They're in debt. Change is a confusing card. Um, yeah, so they had to take. They must have had a dud hand, and they had to continue for vassal to draw their scrying pool. But then because they went into debt, you can't use change's remodel effect because it only works when you're uh, not in debt. It's smart that he left the haunted mirror on top. Why is that? Uh, this is a very awkward kingdom. Like you got a bunch of scrying pools, but there really aren't actions worth drawing with the scrying pools. Um, they're almost like borderline cantrips here that you're mostly just getting because your change can get them for cheap. Is this the rare scrying pool big money kingdom? The big threat of a scrying pool deck, I suppose, is being able to play a relic every turn. You can kind of counter with hireling. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this kingdom. I got a suspicion that like Alliance and Marchland scores enough to just not bother trying to achieve deck control. I think. Why does the change art show a castle and a forest? It's a good question. My interpretation is that the forest represents the natural state of things. Like that's how things were since time immemorial, this pristine, untouched forest. And then someone built this big modern looking castle, and that is the change. Seasons would be a good way to show it. Like if the leaves were falling off the trees and were orange, I think that'd be a good way to emphasize change. Although here the leaves are mostly green, so it doesn't clearly look like fall to me. Castle should try to activate approaching army, since he's the only one with attack cards. Don't they both have scrying pool? I think you're mistaken about that, Porky. Or 6 to 3 when you count the relics. Why are there so many terminals in MyC deck? Well, they do have a Necropolis. They don't have a Necropolis. Oh yeah, MyBoiii has the Necropolis. MyC killed the Necropolis. Well, they do have a ghost, and that's what matters. After alliancing, do we want to try to smuggle another Madman in for some? Yeah, like the deck I'm imagining, you probably play a hireling or two, and then you buy continue fairly often, mostly just to gain Madmen, and then on your big Madman turn, you buy alliance, then you buy continue, and then alliance, and then probably once you have some green cards in your deck, you're also buying marchlands there and discarding a bunch of those green cards. Um, I don't know if maybe you bank that up and like one shuffle you take like 2 or 3 madmen, then you draw your deck, and then you have like a really big alliance plus marchland turn. I feel like if you hit like 2 or 3 alliances and some marchlands, that's probably enough points. Because like the scrying pool engine, I don't think can take alliances very effectively. Um, my boy is learning. We have gained a change with a scrying pool. It's not totally obvious to me that like that's the correct deck or anything. Like if you're not taking many of the scry like that deck maybe has a scrying pool or two in it. Like you could change coppers into scrying pools. Like if you let your opponent have most of the scrying pools, maybe they're just drawing their deck off of scrying pool alone. I don't know. Yeah, so change can gain scrying pool, familiar, possession even. But it would have been a bit too powerful if it could gain transmutes. And so it had to have that if it costs more condition, so that you couldn't turn a copper into a pure potion cost card like transmute. What exactly is a marshland? Like it in my head, I think I mentally interpret it as marshland. I know what marshland is. We have much of that here. The is march? Can march mean like the border? Margrave is honestly also a word that is not in my vocabulary, except with respect to the Dominion card. One cemetery was gained, trashing 4 coppers. German translation is border region. Hmm. So it's basically a Hinterlands card in spirit. Yeah, MyBoiii has been very thin for quite a while. Um, some might say too thin. Oh yeah, victory cards are hard to fit into update packs, right? Something about the numbers. Mm-hmm. What do you do on 8? Just a province, okay. Do I agree with that? I don't know. Yeah, Cardinal is not that scary here just because there's not a whole lot worth cardinaling. Like if you hit the relic, that's moderately annoying. I like Saltrosa's interpretation of marshland as putting your cards to a land where they can be marched. Ah, yes, this is a nice thematic synergy there. And then it gives you the plus buy to march them even. Yes, the Wikipedia definition actually is where Saltrosa got that from. If you look up marchland on Wikipedia, it's going to say marchland is the land where cards can be marched. Potion has died. 7 is not the most exciting number. Not quite sure what we do on 7. I still kind of have Alliance on the brain. It's a lot of points. Has some synergy with Marshland. Admittedly, some anti-synergy with the scrying pools. Is that are those actually etymologically related? I would have guessed that Marquis is French and Marchland is Germanic. Don't ask me why. I've not heard of this Marfar chicken. It's chicken from faraway border regions. It's a dish in American Chinese restaurants. Maybe I don't eat enough Chinese restaurants. If I'm thinking, I know that the average American Chinese restaurant, it's just like, here's 30 variants of chicken. But the ones that come to my mind are like General Tso's, orange chicken, probably something involving broccoli, sesame chicken. Um, I'm out of chickens. Lemon chicken. That's a thing. Copper to copper if he still wants a province. That's illegal. You'll be breaking the law. Change requires, it is not optional, that you gain a card costing more. It is true. I absolutely endlessly complaining about it in my games now. The number of times I've been in a kingdom where I'm like, ooh, I'm just going to change this card into another card of the same cost, and then I come to the brutal realization that that is not possible. It's been very high. Yeah, remake's not a remodel variant. Remake is an upgrade variant. Very different. Like the Daily Kingdom yesterday, I think it was. There was change in Lich. And you're like, man, I'd love to change Lich. Shoot, I've got to gain a province. Who wants a province right now? That was a real buzzkill. That is pretty funny. Um, each other player puts their -1 card token on their deck from Relic. Scrying Pool doesn't technically draw cards. It just looks at cards one at a time and puts them into your hand. And so it never actually, on the one hand, it doesn't get hit by the negative card token. On the other hand, it doesn't remove the negative card token either. And so you could play 10 scrying pools and still have the negative card token. I remember that. One of the potential extra turn uh, thingamajigs was going to be like you can take an extra turn, but you can't draw cards. But then it turns out there's just a bunch of things in Dominion that draw cards without drawing cards, and will let you just have a full extra turn. Like Library doesn't draw cards, or Scrying Pool, or Catacombs, or what other things just put cards into your hand? Library draws cards? Nah, you're kidding. That's a joke. The, oh, Journeyman. Maybe wait. Catacombs does draw cards. Wait, Catacombs maybe draws cards. Catacombs has two options, one of which draws cards. I think. Um, draw until you have 7 cards in hand, skipping any action card you choose to. Oh, lo and behold, library draws cards. Who would have thunk? This is a slow kingdom. I feel like Nat is in general short for Natalie. I would not call it an uncommon nickname. MyCaastl has the lead. MyCaastl also has a hand of 4 victory cards, so you never know. Is your name a nickname? I'm gonna need to see your birth certificate. And yes, advisor is also a nickname. Oh yeah, Carnival doesn't draw cards. Or does it? At this point, I don't even know. Some cards draw cards, other cards don't draw cards. Some cards just put cards in your hand. Oh, and was it Seller or I feel like it was Seller. Maybe it was different, or was it Oracle? One of the cards drew cards, and then it changed to not draw cards. Then it changed back to drawing cards again. MyBoiii gained a cemetery. They did not get a marshlands bump. We did trash a vassal. And we took a province. Hmm. I don't know. It's hard to say exactly what's correct here. I would think if you're behind by as many points as MyBoiii was, you got to be trying to shoot for Alliance. But maybe their deck isn't built to take Alliance. Um, they've overlooked the thematic synergies. Um, I'm looking at this hand and realizing these decks might have fallen apart just a teensy weensy bit. Surely as MyCaastl, you just turn the ghost into a province here, and then it's gonna take you a few years to pay up that debt maybe, but then eventually you do, and then you get back around to your change, and then you can close out the game finally. Yeah. I think it also would have been reasonable to maybe just turn one of the victory cards into a province. Yeah, state into province and play the ghost would also, I think, be a pretty good choice. Um, so now if we draw change, we win. No, that's not true. Because we can't play treasures in the action phase. We draw change next turn, we win. Lead feels enough to go marshland into province. Oh, lead feels enough to go marshland into province and pay off debt faster to close. Uh, I would probably kill the estate, but I mean, killing the marshland is not a terrible choice. Probably most of these roads all lead to victory for MyCaastl is the true answer. Alrighty, 2-0, MyCaastl leads. We're taking a brief break. Brief break. Taking a brief break. Can I say that 5 times fast? Taking a brief break, taking a brief break, taking a brief break, taking a brief break. Never mind, we're not taking a brief break. Change of plans. What's going on in this kingdom? It's not the kingdom button. The only village is Conclave, which is an awkward village. Oh, look at all these cards that draw cards without drawing cards. Oh, this kingdom needs relic. Um, so we got one awkward village and a plethora of terminal draw cards. Oh, there's Necropolis. So we had 2 awkward villages. Plus buys rice. There is bureaucracy. What triggers bureaucracy? Mountain Shrine triggers bureaucracy. And you probably play with Mountain Shrine here. Which case sadness is on the horizon. Yeah. Bureaucracy gonna hit. So I think you don't want to build super big here, both because Conclave gets really awkward in large numbers, and also because you gain a lot of coppers. But presumably we are getting a few rices, getting a few conclaves, getting a smattering of the terminal draw cards, and then greening probably like 2 provinces at a time. You can buy peddlers without taking coppers, which is kind of cute. One could think of rice as draw. If you get at least 3 money in a buy off of rice, you can buy expedition for +2 cards. What are all the types for rice? Let's count those. We've got Old Witch is an attack card. Mountain Shrine is an omen. Research is a duration. We also have Necropolis is a shelter. So you could get rice up to 6. That's a pretty big number. I think all of those cards are cards that it's pretty reasonable to click here as well. I don't think I'd be trashing my Necropolis. And you want Mountain Shrine for thinning. You want Old Witch for drawing the attack. Research seems good. So yeah, I think rice ends up at 6 pretty naturally. How do we open? MyCaastl has the 3-4 and elects for, we don't know yet. MyBoiii opens Research Mountain Shrine. That seems pretty good to me. Um, MyCaastl opens fisherman and research. I think fisherman research and fisherman mountain shrine both seem reasonable. Um, I did die a few days ago. This is actually pre-recorded. Um, I was just making a guess as to what was happening in each of these games. I could be totally wrong. Um, I did just play my first championship match in the middle of a hurricane, but it was not much of a hurricane. It was more of a light rain, but nominally it was a hurricane. Oh, Divine Wind probably throws all of those like what's the maximum score you can get in this kingdom questions for a loop, because now you can play with functionally a 20 card kingdom, so all those numbers just get way higher. Bye bye Necro. Did we kill a Necropolis? Who killed their Necropolis? My boy. My boy researched their Necropolis. I don't think I would do that here. It buffs your rice. It is a village. All the draw is terminal. It's like a free conclave. It's also a free conclave target. Like conclave can't play conclave. That's another tongue twister. But conclave can play Necropolis. Um, expedition probably there. This J Nails lore isn't clickbaity enough. Um, I once met a terrorist in McDonald's. Is that clickbaity enough? Yeah. The truly shocking part of that was going to McDonald's. No, McDonald's. I don't know if this is still true. I haven't been to McDonald's in quite a while, but for a long time they had the $1 any size coffee, which made it a great place to go late at night if you need some caffeine. Um, 22 and I've never had coffee. You should move to Utah. Why you DZ DZ? Uh, Utah is the land of the Mormons, and Mormons do not consume caffeine, so you would fit in well in Utah. Aren't you Utah adjacent? Aren't you out on the West Coast? You should know the Mormon lore. MyCaastl, 14 money and 2 buys. Um, yeah, I think the answer might just be lots and lots of rice. Maybe rice and a draw card is better. I don't think Old Witch would have been my first choice. I think one Old Witch is often a good number, and with Conclave around, that becomes extra true. Well, this Old Witch gets to die. Or we can kill the Copper. I would have trashed that Old Witch in a heartbeat. Um, Probably another Thinner, another Researcher, Mountain Shrine. No, I don't like the number of Old Witches. This is too many witches. Get yourself a Catacombs or a Carnival. It's rare that one rice is suitable for anything. Usually you want 1,000 rice. I do think that is how rice tends to work. Rice seems like the sort of word where there should be a separate singular word that you never actually use, like datum. See, there's an example of why you don't get the second old witch. All that second old witch did was trash a second curse. And I'm gonna hypothesize there might have even been a conclave in hand that they just couldn't use because their second draw card was the same as their first draw card. Though there's no way to know. The old peddler bureaucracy loophole. Ha 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 ha! Ho 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 ho! Oh, Castle, you and your old witches. You foiled yourself. If that had been any other draw card, you could have played on. But no. Why does old witch have a rat on her shoulder? Where would you put your pet rat? Also, is that a giant spider on her chest? Like on her stomach, rather? Kind of looks like one. Maybe it's a spider crab. Kill an old witch, please. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. I remember there was I think it was a league match I was commentating like a week or two ago. I think it was H division, and there was a kingdom where research was the main draw. And it was every turn you look at the hand, you're like, just research this expensive card, and they would kill a copper. Um, Research trashing expensive stuff tends to be pretty good if you're not otherwise drawing. If you are drawing it, say, like you're setting aside a lot of your cards. But if you're otherwise struggling to draw, 5 cards in hand at the start of turn is pretty nice. Province or rice? I'm gonna say rice. I'll buy the rice. You've got a points lead. You got a big hand. You're threatening a pile out. Maybe that's not certain. Your opponent has 5 cards. I'm not sure how many plus buy MyBoiii has, but maybe if we undid the rice buy. So you're clicking at least 2 provinces. But double province, double expedition? Triple province seems a little too greedy, I think. Looks like it wouldn't have made a difference anyway. Double would have been enough for MyCaastl to win. Alright. Alas, they massacred my boy. Congratulations to MyCaastl, who moves on to the round of 64, and will be playing either Toshikimu or Burning Skull. That'll be quite the match. Ta-ta for now.